Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Angela Wolf here, Brother Brand Ambassador. We are here with another fun project, which could be used for pretty much anyone, for yourself or for a gift. So we're going to welcome Emily Thompson, another Brother Brand Ambassador, and she's got a great project. So let me just ask you a question. Do you like to read books? Do you carry books with you? I'm terrible. I carry these on the airplane. My husband's like, do you know how much these weigh? Yeah, I do. But you know what? Emily's got something fun for us, which is going to make my books look a lot cuter. How are you, Emily?
I'm good. Hi. So glad to be here today and so glad to be sewing another fun project.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. So when I saw that this was the topic, I was like, this is so cool. I have been making these the last few months and giving them as gifts. They were great things to get. You can embroider names on them. There's so much you can do. And guess what? Not all books are the same size. So you have to make a lot of these.
Yes. So that's what's fun about this is you really can customize it to any size that you want. And today I'm going off of the size that I had originally written this tutorial for. So on lifesewsavory.com, you will find this project and it is made for a composition notebook. So when my daughter was going to school a couple years ago, she wanted to make her notebooks cute, but they had to have just these plain black notebooks, which means can't really decorate it. So I made some fun fabric covers for her notebooks, which is also fun because like you said, you could embroider the subject or whatever you wanted onto it. And that was really fun. And so today I'm just going to tweak it a little bit to be able to cover just a hardcover book. You could also do a soft cover. But I do think, you know, if you have a hardcover, that's usually the kind of book that you want to like protect and take care of because it has a really nice cover on it. And if you are carrying it to the beach or the lake or on a boat or wherever you're going this summer, you don't want it dinged up. So you want it to stay nice. So we're going to make a protective cover. The fun thing about these covers is they also have 2 pockets inside and outside. So if you have bookmarks or papers or other things that you need to keep inside the sleeve of your book, you can do that very easily. So we'll talk through how to measure your book or your notebook and then what size to cut all your fabrics.
I love this. I love this. And I love that you have a couple compartments because I usually have a pen and I usually have little notes and all the stuff that falls out.
That's right. Yep. Any notes or Post-its or whatever you're doing that you want to keep track of, bookmarks, it's a great place to do that. And you can make 1 or 2, 1 on each flap or, 2 as on 1 on each flap or just 1 on the front. So lots of things to do. So, all right. So I'm going to show you first of all, how to cut this out and we'll step through all the cutting and then we'll go over and we'll sew it together. And it's really not a complicated sewing pattern, but I'll just walk you through the steps. And again, you can find this full tutorial on Life Sew Savory as well. Just pop like the word notebook or notebook cover into the search bar and it will pop up for you. And I know that because I've looked at it a few times in the last few days trying to get myself organized for this tutorial. So let me just switch over my camera so you can see my workspace and we'll get started.
Sounds good. I've got you covered. So we are live in the chat again today. So drop your comments below. Brother Social Team is there as well. And if you're watching the replay, you can still ask questions because we try to get back to those as well. So I would love to know in the comments, have you ever made a book cover? If you have, then you know how cool this is. And I told my husband, when I make the book covers, it doesn't add that much weight to the books, the big old heavy books that I'm carrying around.
Definitely not weight added. Yes, just a little bit of fabric on there and it definitely adds the cuteness factor for sure. So the pieces that you want to cut out for this project is we're going to cut 2 main pieces. And when I say main pieces, that means that the piece of fabric that's going to cover the entire outside cover of this book. So in order to measure that, you want to make sure that you measure from the side of the book all the way around. Make sure you include the spine as well to the back side. So mine is just over 12 inches. Okay. So then you're going to add your seam allowance. And if you're sewing about a 3/8 seam allowance, a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 inch, I like to add between a 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to say that the width of my book is 12.75. Okay. So then you'll record that down. Then you're going to measure the height of your book, and mine is 8 1/4. So we're going to cut everything by 9 inches. So the dimensions of our main piece of fabric is going to be 12.75 by 9 inches. And I've already actually pre-cut the interfacing, because you need one piece of interfacing that size. So I'm going to use that for the template to cut this piece of fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to magnet this down, and then we'll cut along there. For the other pieces, because I don't have like a template made, we will be using a ruler. If you were going to make a bunch of these, making paper or cardboard templates, especially if they were going to be the same size, would definitely make it go faster rather than measuring out each individual piece. It's all rectangles, so that part is simple, but you want to make sure you have a couple. Oh, and I should have cut 2 layers of fabric at once because I need 2 of these. So next time, fold your fabric. Next time I need more than one, I will fold the fabric. But for this one, we're just gonna pop this on here again and cut another one.
Emily, I love that fabric. All I'm thinking right now is the beach when I see that fabric.
Oh, I love it too. I was trying, when I pulled this out of my scrap bin, I was trying to remember what I bought it for, but I have the cutest little romper for woven fabric that is, it's not my pattern, but I found it online. And I was just thinking that this fabric would make an adorable little romper for summer. So I might have to see if I can find more of it, because it's so fun, and it's like that seersucker crinkly fabric. So it's really soft and nice as well. Okay, so we're going to set these to the side. We have our 2 main pieces and an interfacing that's the same size. All right, so we're going to set those aside. Now we're going to cut the inside flap pieces. Okay, so we'll take the measurement again. We know the height, right? We know that that is 9 inches. So we're going to keep that. And then the second thing we're going to do is measure for how wide or how deep we want our flap to come over. And that's what's going to hold the cover actually on the book, is because that will be the flap that will insert inside. So you can make it very small, right? It doesn't have to cover the full inside, but we can also make it where it comes farther across as well. So I'm going to cut it 5 1/2. But we're going to have seams on this side and this side, so it will be less than 5 when we're done, which means it should come to about this part of the book, which hopefully I think will be a good amount to protect that inside cover. Okay, so we're going to cut it 9 by 5 1/2, and we're going to cut 4 of those for the inside flaps. Okay, so I'm going to, I don't know if I'm going to cut all 4 at once, but I'm going to definitely fold the fabric here and try to cut 2 at a time. Although, as I'm looking at this, sometimes cutting more than 1 layer of stripe fabric isn't as easy. Sometimes it is easier to just cut 1 at a time to make sure that your stripes are all going the way that they should. All right, and this bottom is all crinkly here. So I think I'm going to cut that off. Okay, along that edge, we're going to get rid of that. And then line it up. So we're cutting straight. And what did I say? 9 inches tall. So let's put on this edge where I can line up the 9. Okay, so I'm going to try to square this up as well. All right, so this is the 9 here. I've got it lined up along this edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm doing what you shouldn't, crossing over my hands because it's on there. And then we're going to cut off the fold here. And what did I say? 5 1/2. Okay, so we'll line it up 1, 2, 4, 5 1/2. Okay, so you're just cutting rectangles. You probably have a better method than I do for cutting rectangles, but this is, you can see the method to my madness a little. Double check before I cut, which I don't always do, right? Measure more than once. So you only have to cut once, but sometimes I forget and I just cut. All right, so now we can use this actually for my little template for the next one, which will make this go faster. Okay, so we just line it up with the fabric that's already on there to cut the other two. So you can, if you're comfortable cutting 4 layers of fabric, I'm just not always comfortable cutting that much fabric, so I wanted to do 2 and 2. All right, so now we have 4 of the inside flap, and then the last piece that we need to cut, I'm gonna have just enough fabric here in my little scrap, is to cut 2 pockets. And so we're gonna keep the same 5.5 inch width because that will go on that inside flap. But you have to decide how tall you want your pocket. And I'm gonna have a seam on the bottom, so that's a 1/4 inch there. And then I'm gonna do a double fold to finish the top. So that'll be about that much. So I'm gonna go 5.5 inches. So we'll cut a 5.5 inch square if there's enough fabric here. And then that will be our 2 pockets on the side. How tall is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, just enough. Okay, perfect. So we'll get rid of this and then we'll cut this 5.5. Okay, again, I'm going to cut off the fold. Line it up in the square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Okay, and there are the final pockets that we need. So now we have all the pieces that we need for this. Show you one more time. So we have 2 pockets. This is if you want to have pockets, like you said, for bookmarks, papers, notes, anything like that. On a hardcover, it might be a little tricky to stick a pen in there. Just because it doesn't squish, but on a soft cover or on a notebook, you definitely could use this for a pen or something that was even a little bit thicker. Okay, and it's gonna go, these pockets are gonna go on these inside covers. And I might end up, we could put them, wait a second, 1, 2, 3, 5.5. This must not be 5.5 by 5.5 because it's not the same size. So let me double check this. It's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's 6. Well, that will, one side, I guess I didn't cut off. All right, so let's cut this 5.5 by 5.5. There we go. So we're gonna, once we finish the top edge, we're gonna be sewing it on here, and then the sides will be finished when we sew the sides. So I might do it like this, where I have the fabric going the contrasting different ways because it looks so cute on with this fabric to just have, then the stripes stand out a little bit more, because otherwise using all the same fabric like this, they do blend in, but I didn't have anything that would look cute with this. So the first thing we're gonna do is finish the top edge of this with a double fold. And while I'm here, I might actually just press that real quick and then we'll go sew. I don't think we need to really do any other pressing, but I'm gonna just, I'll double fold over that edge. And that will get us started. So I'm just gonna try to fold over like a 1/4 inch. You also could finish the edge with a serger and then just fold it over once if you wanted, but it'll look nice here with this double folded edge. And if you give yourself more seam allowance, you could make it a wider fold. We're just gonna do a really narrow one here. So we'll stitch that down. And then do the same thing on the other pocket top just to finish the edge. The sides, like I said, will be finished in the seam. So you don't have to worry about the raw. Everything else will be a finished edge enclosed in seams on this project. So this is the only layer we need to finish. Okay, all right, so now it's time to go over and put this all together and make a cute little book cover. Let's get sewing.
This is so cute. I'll take you out for a sec while you're switching your cameras around. And again, pop your questions and comments in the chat. We are live in the chat today on the YouTube and Facebook pages for Brother Sews. And have you ever made one of these before? She made it so simple to see how to take the measurements. Easy, right? This could work for any book. I love this. And I always have little notes, and usually I have pockets for my money. Emily, I'm just trying to think of all the different pockets I need. My pen, I always have a highlighter. I'm like the one that highlights my books all over the place. Yeah.
Yes, pockets are always a good thing. And really, you can never have too many pockets. So
Never.
at least that's what I'm going to say. Okay. So we are just going to first, like we said, we're going to sew the top edge of this down. So I'm going to turn it over. So I'm sewing on the right side of the fabric, and we're just going to stitch. My machine's already on. We're just going to go ahead and stitch about a 1/4 inch from the top to secure that seam. And I'm going to lengthen my stitch just a little bit to 3 because I think that makes a nicer looking hem stitch at the top. You can back stitch, or you actually don't really have to back stitch. It's up to you, because like I said, we are going to be finishing the edges of this in the sides of the front flap or the side flaps. It's habit definitely for me to back stitch, so I usually do. Okay, so just finishing the top. And then you're going to make sure that the top lays nicely, that we cut those double folds. So you just do a quick check. Okay, looks good. So then we're going to take 2 of the side pieces, which we have here. Okay, so like this. And we're going to be aligning the sides and the bottom. Okay, so that's what you're going to line up. You have 4 of these pieces, and it doesn't really matter which ones you use, okay? Just for note. Okay, so we're gonna line those up. It's all gonna get sewn here in a minute. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. You can see that I did decide to rotate the fabric so that the stripes are going the opposite direction. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the second piece. So let's pretend this is an open book, right? So we can visualize this. We want to sew this edge, the inside edge of the flap together, because then we're going to fold that right side out. So that's the first piece we're going to do. So I'm going to line up this second piece and put some clips in it. Okay, so the top and the bottom should line up pretty well. And then we're going to sew along there so that we can open this up and turn that right side out, and then have that inside flap a nice finished edge. So we'll just put this one to the side. So we want to do opposite. So we did inside, so we also want to do inside of this piece. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing where we line up the bottom and the top of this piece. And then I'm going to sew with, like I said, a 3/8 inch to between a 3/8 inch and a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And this will enclose one side of the pocket. And it didn't sew. My bobbin's not threaded. I just went all the way down there and it didn't do anything. All right.
You gotta love that. I have done that before. I have done that where I sewed forever. I had turned off the sensor and I got to the end.
Actually, the sensor's on, but the bobbin thread just got, like, it wasn't through the loop anymore. So it's full, but so we'll see. It should be just fine now. I don't know. Must have been Yeah, I didn't even look that it was actually sewing. Oh yeah, okay, now we have stitches. Now we have stitches. Nothing like sewing forever and accomplishing nothing. Thankfully, it's a pretty small seam here. All right, so we just sewed right along there. So now we can turn this right side out and top stitch along there. So cute. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing on this side of this piece. Okay, now you can turn this right side out and you could press it. I'm just gonna fold it back and securely press it with my finger, but you definitely, if you weren't trying to do this all in one location at this point, would go and just give this a little press so that this is a nice crisp edge here. Okay, but I am gonna top stitch along there, but let's do this one first too. We're gonna fold this back, lay it along nicely, and top stitch along here, just to give it a nice little finished look. Okay, so we have the two pieces folded back together, and for the top stitching, I'm gonna sew really close to the edge. Okay, so an 1/8 inch or closer, really as close as you can, to just get that nice top stitch, but we don't want to take up like space from the pocket or space from the flap. So we just want to do a really narrow, close top stitch. Oh my goodness, it didn't sew again. I'm changing my bobbin thread, sorry. Okay, let's grab this pretty glue. See if that bobbin head.
It sounds like what I was doing earlier when I went from embroidery to sewing, and my
Yes.
embroidery bobbin thread was so thin that when I went to sewing, I had a very similar situation.
Yeah, I think I was using the embroidery bobbin thread, which sometimes I'll just leave in there, but it's definitely different thread. So, okay, so let's stitch again. This is like you get to see everything more than once. All right, you'd think I would have learned to check. All right, so that looks good. So cute along there. So we have the yellow on that side, and then there's actually like a blue, the light blue that I put on that side. But with this fabric, I really can use so many different colors of thread, and it looks great. I'm not limited. And now it's sewing again. So it must have been that when I was trimming that bobbin thread, it wasn't catching the next time I was starting again. Okay, so now we have top stitched both sides of our little flap piece. And actually, you know what I realized I just didn't do is I did not fuse the interfacing. So we are going to have to pop back over to the workspace at this point, and then I'll actually pin everything together when we're over there, which gives me more room than what I've got going here. So I'm going to pop back over to my work table and fuse this interfacing and then put this all together for the final sew around. So I'll meet you back over there.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So drop your questions below, your comments. I would love to know what you're sewing this day. And also, if you're watching the replay, drop them in there as well. So while Emily's switching back, I love the way that these stripes are turning out, where you have the stripes going one way. It's definitely a great design. And especially if you have one piece of fabric with stripes, it's an easy way to play with that and not need an extra piece. Emily, I think you did a good job on the fabric choice here.
Thanks. Okay, so here's one of my main pieces. Okay, so one of my outside pieces, and you can double check that it's gonna enclose your book by making sure that it does enclose the book. But what I want to do is, because I have two of the main pieces, I'm just going to interface one of them to make it just slightly stiffer. Okay, so you can choose the type of interfacing that you're using. This is just sort of a medium weight fusible. It's not very heavy, but it's just going to give me a little more stability, especially if you were using a soft cover book or a book that is floppier. This hardcover, I don't know how important it is, but this is in the tutorial, so I'm showing you all the steps so that you get everything that you need. So, okay, try and fuse this. We'll see if it fuses to this. My iron cooled off. That's the problem. I love the automatic shut off, but I don't love the automatic shut off. So as it warms up again, it will be fusing this, and then we'll show you how we're going to put this all together and sew it. I'm sure you can probably guess with all the layers how we're just going to layer it up, but then we'll have nice, clean, finished lines on all the parts of this. Oh, it's getting there. All right. Okay, so there we go. Fuse, oh, one little spot here. Fuse interfacing. And then we're ready to layer it all up. Just as it gets nice and hot. Just as I finish. Okay, so you're going to take one of your main pieces, and then you're going to, on the outside edge of it, you're going to line up one of these flat pieces that we just made. Okay, so line up the sides, the bottom, the top. I'm going to actually remove these clips because we're going to put it all together here in a minute. And then we're going to take the other flat piece. Make sure that those finished top stitched edges are facing inward because that's going to be the inside edge of that. And then we're going to line that all up. Take these clips off. All right, so that's looking good. And then we're going to take this top piece here and we're going to finish the sandwich of all of those pieces. And when I'm sewing, I'm going to leave an opening here between these top flaps and we'll use that to turn it right side out. Okay, so at this point, when I have everything put together, we're going to put clips back on to keep it all together. And then, like I said, you need to leave an opening. I like to just leave it here where there's only 2 layers of fabric because it makes closing that turning hole way easier. If you do it on the side or anywhere else, you have multiple layers of fabric, and so it's harder to turn that seam allowance in and do the final finish. But right here or on the bottom, we only have 2 layers of fabric, so just the outer pieces. So it's really easy to just turn those in and then top stitch. Okay, so now I have the pieces all put together. We have the back, okay, and it's all right sides together. So this fabric is literally double-sided. So the only reason I know this is the wrong side is because the interfacing is on it. But otherwise, you would just make sure that everything is right side together, and then on the inside, the flaps are facing up as this is the top. But this fabric, it really is double-sided.
That was my next question because I was like, which side is which? So right sides together, everyone. Sandwich the right sides.
Yeah, I can't tell. I mean, on this seersucker fabric, I really feel like it's 100% the same. So, but we did put the interfacing on the back of this piece. So that's my clue on that one. That's going to be the back side. All right, let's go over and finish sewing this, and then we'll try to shove our book inside and make sure it fits.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So again, we are live in the chat today. Thank you for watching. And if you have questions, drop them below because we are in there on the Facebook and YouTube pages. All right, Emily's back at her Stellaire. I know somebody's going to say, what machine is she sewing on? Sewing on the Stellaire. And you can see she actually has her embroidery unit on. You can sew with the embroidery unit on. Just move it to the side.
Yes. So, and I've mentioned this before, but because my sewing space is quite small, just even taking and the embroidery unit on the cell layer is quite large. I love that I can just leave it on because one, I don't have to store it anywhere. And two, I don't have to move my machine. It's kind of in this tight little space that fits this machine perfectly. There's walls on both sides, but in order to get the embroidery unit on, I have to really rotate to pull that off. So I love that I can just get it set up, organized, and then every once in a while I'll take it off depending on the sewing project that I'm doing. But for the most part, I'm able to just leave it on, and I actually really love that feature. So, all right, we're set up to sew. I'm going to start, like I said, here we're going to leave this for the turning hole. So I'm going to start right on the edge of this one so that I can go around and then just finish opposite it. So we're going to give a nice back stitch here so that when I'm turning it, I don't pull any stitches. And then we're going to pivot at the corners. So you want to get your 3/8 inch close to the edge, then you're going to lift the presser foot and pivot. You also want to be making sure that you are sewing through all the layers of fabric, because on the sides here we have the pocket, we have the flat piece, and we have the main piece. Okay, but we're just making our way around. Here's another thinner piece where there's only the 2 layers of fabric, but this time, I'm just going to sew right over it because we don't need that part for turning. Okay, lift, pivot, and we'll sew up the second short side. I do love this seersucker fabric, but I will say because it's like kind of crinkly, sometimes it does stretch out a little bit when you're sewing. So something to definitely watch for, that you're still catching all the layers, even if the fabric is moving a little bit or seems like it's moving. It's not really moving, it's just sort of stretching out. All right, so I'm going to sew just right to the edge. I can feel the edge of this pocket flap, and I want to leave myself a good size turning hole. So we're going to top stitch right on the edge of that. Okay, it's not too far between those flaps, so I didn't leave too big of a hole. For a bigger book or like a notebook, you actually have more space between them just because of the nature of the pocket flaps. We're going to cut the corners. Actually, what I should do though is make sure I take a double check on the back side that I didn't see. I just want to make sure that I caught all the edges of my fabric, right? So you don't want to turn this and then we have a hole. That's never good. All right, and if you have a spot that has like thicker seam allowance, like this was the bottom of the pocket, you just might want to trim that fabric down to a little bit narrower, just so all that bulk is not inside your book cover. Okay, so I'm just taking it down just a little bit closer. And especially too if things slid and one part is like sticking out farther than the other. Okay. So there we go. Now let's turn it out and see if it's just how we wanted it to be. So I'm going to push it all through that little turning hole, and then we'll be able to poke out the corners and arrange it how we want. Again, a little bit tiny, but it's going to fit through. Just take a little bit of maneuvering.
That's always the thing. I'm laughing because that's always the thing. I'm like, I leave a hole and I'm like, I can only get 2 fingers in there. I should have left more.
Yes. All right. So you want to make sure on the pocket flaps that they're pulled to the side where the pocket is on the outside. I could do it this way, but then the pocket would be where we can't use it. All right. So that's how you know how to pull those pocket flaps out, and they really can flip to either side. But that's a little tip. All right, so now I've got it pretty far out, and I'm going to take the blunt end of my scissors and poke out the corners.
That fabric really looks good.
It's definitely making me want to go read at the beach. That's for sure. Okay, so you can see the general design, right? It's going to close like this and go around the book. And then when you open up the book, you have your little pockets inside for whatever you need. So we have the final step of tucking in the seam allowance up here on this hole that we use to turn it. So I'm just going to fold the little seam allowance. And it actually, because it's not very wide, if you sort of pull it, the fabric sort of tucks itself inside quite nicely. So I'm just going to stitch really close the edge along there, and then we'll be able to put our book inside and see how it looks.
I love that. And you know, your pockets are big enough to put glasses. I was just thinking those.
Oh, yes. Yes, especially on a soft cover book, that would be perfect.
So if any of you missed last month's tutorial, you go back on Brother's Facebook or YouTube page and find the episode that Emily did, the sunglass case or glass case, and you can do it out of coordinating fabric. I think that would be
so fun to have a set. All right, so let's put this inside. So you're going to just want to grab the flap, and we want it to fit. It does. Okay, cute. Now on the hardcover, okay, you don't want to break the binding, but you do have to fold the book back a little bit to be able to get it into the fabric sleeve. So just be careful with the binding. On a soft cover, of course, it's much easier, but that's how you get the flaps inside. And then you can just move them around and voila! All finished. It looks so, so cute, and it fits perfectly. And I am really bright right here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so cute.
Yeah, so that turned out, and look at, so now you can put your papers or your pencil or whatever you have in the flaps, and you have two if you need to. Otherwise, you just have a nice protected book cover, so you can shove it in your bag or wherever you're putting it and not really worry about scuffing up the cover or ripping it, or if it's a library book or anything like that you're going to take on a trip, this would be a really great way to provide some protection. I
love that. And you know, you're right. Library books, a lot of them are a very similar size if you're using a hardback.
Yes.
You always keep getting the same author or anything like that. That's perfect. Oh, Emily, what a fun project. Easy to do. And you can add so much more to it too. You can add some embroidery. You could add some bling, whatever you want on there.
Totally. The front and back are literally a blank canvas calling for embroidery or vinyl or sublimation. Like there's really so many ways that you could decorate or label on the outside. So really fun way to think about.
I see Art Spira coming right now.
So many things that we could do. Actually, you know, on Art Spira Plus, that new feature where you can make a motif, a flower motif out of the letter. Have you played with that at all?
A little bit. It's very cool.
That would be perfect on, because it would be nice and big and just like a single letter. Ooh, I might have to add that on there. Get the colors that match and make something pretty.
This could be a lot of fun. All right. So again, we are live in the chat. So drop your questions. If you're watching the replay, you can leave questions there too. We will try to answer them. Emily, another great project. So if you missed last month, you got to get that sunglass kit.
Yeah.
You can put it on her website, watch the video. It would be a perfect match with this book cover. So, all right. Until next time, everyone, happy sewing. Emily, great project.
Thanks.